Niobe turned to stone for daring pride. She bragged that her 14 children outshone Leto's twins, Apollo and Artemis, before the gods heard. Incensed, Apollo unleashed a deadly arrow that felled each infant in a single breath. Artemis then hurled a spear, shattering the remaining mothers and sealing Niobe's doom. As she wailed, the earth hardened around her, freezing her forever in a marble grief. Do you feel the weight of a single boast could petrify you? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Niobe watched her children turn to ash. Proud queen of Thebes, she bragged that Zeus and Leto birthed only a few mortals compared to her 12 offspring. Offended, Leto sent her twin children, Apollo and Artemis, to rain relentless arrows that felled each child in a single breath. Niobe's wail shattered the mountain, and Zeus, fearing her endless grief, froze her in the very spot where she screamed. She still stands, stone weeping. Can grief freeze forever? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Loki chained the wolf that would devour worlds. Fenrir grew beyond any forge, his jaws swallowing mountains. The gods begged Loki for a trick, fearing their own doom. He forged Gleipnir from catfoot silk, a bear's breath, and the sound of a wave's sigh. When Fenrir snarled and bit the ribbon, it snapped like twine, yet Gleipnir's magic bound him forever. Thus the apocalypse was postponed by a sly god's deceit. Do you trust trickery over strength? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Amaterasu hid the sun behind a dark cave. After Susanoo's raging storm ripped the heavens, the bright goddess fled in shame. Night swallowed the fields, and even the moon dared not appear. The other gods laid a mirror, a jewel, and a magpie before the entrance, baiting her curiosity. Seeing her own light reflected, Amaterasu opened the stone door, letting the sun blaze once more. Do you feel the sun's return whenever you step into light? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Orpheus lost Eurydice with a single glance. Hades freed Eurydice but warned any backward glance would trap her forever. Orpheus led her through the cavern, his lyre trembling like a dying heartbeat. At the exit the scent of spring rose, and terror seized his mind, whispering that the dead were a cruel trick. He turned, and Eurydice was swallowed by shadow, the gate sealing behind her with a final, icy sigh. Could one glance undo a god's mercy? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Sekhmet once unleashed a night of screaming bats over Egypt. Ra, fearing her wrath, ordered Sekhmet to drink red wine to calm her. The wine was cursed, turning her fury into a torrent of bats. Each bat bore her fever, biting townsfolk and darkening the Nile with disease. A priestess recited Sekhmet's true name while burning incense, and the swarm collapsed. So the legendary bat plague was really the goddess's own cursed breath. How many myths hide a virus? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Hephaestus forged a sword that outshone Zeus' thunder ever. When Hera poisoned Samael, Zeus demanded a weapon to strike the goddess herself. In his volcanic forge Hephaestus melted meteoric iron, beating it until it sang with fire. He bound Zeus' thunder to the blade, so every swing unleashed searing lightning. When Zeus hurled the sword at Hera, the strike ignited the sky itself. Would you dare wield such unstoppable fire? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Eros' arrow struck a queen, sparking Troy's doom. Paris drew the golden bow and fired Eros' arrow at Helen. She fled with him to Troy, forcing Menelaus to demand retribution. Agamemnon invoked the oath of the Greek kings and launched a fleet. What began as a lover's quarrel erupted into a decade of bloodshed, all because of one arrow. Do you think a single spark? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Bellerophon dared to ride Pegasus to Olympus. Zeus, amused, lent him the winged steed, whispering that only mortals should stay beneath the gods. Fueled by triumph, Bellerophon thrust Pegasus upward, his eyes fixed on the glittering throne of Hera. Zeus, enraged, sent a stinging gadfly that bit Pegasus' wings, sending the duo spiraling. They crashed onto the Phrygian plain, the hero survived only to be maimed, forever shunned. Do you think hubris ever earns a god's wrath? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. Midas turned his own daughter into gold. The greedy king begged Dionysus for wealth, offering any price. Dionysus granted the golden touch, warning that desire cannot be satisfied by metal. Midas first tested it on a rose, the petals turned to shining gold. When he pressed his daughter's hand, her skin solidified, each breath caught as she became a golden statue. Does this glittering tragedy prove that greed can turn love into cold metal? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first. See Chulainn outran a death curse with a single spear. When the hag Aoife placed the fatal guise on him, any warrior who saw his blood would die instantly. He learned of it and forced a battle before anyone could witness. He summoned the Morrigan, who gave him a blood-stained cloak that hid his wounds. In final clash he bled onto the ground, the cloak masking the spill, so the curse never found a witness and he survived. Would you trust a cursed hero's hidden armor? Subscribe, and tomorrow's legend finds you first.